Hi everyone, this is Aarti here from One Little Dreamer. I am here today to share another project with you guys. Um, Before I actually share the project with you, I wanted to show you the papers that I used for this project. And the paper collection that I used is called Fairy Dust and it's from Spare Marbles. Now, many of you guys are probably already subscribed to Diana, who is Spare Marbles 2012 on YouTube, and she recently opened, well, not recently, but she recently started designing digital papers, and she has them for sale in her Artfire store, which is also called Spare Marbles. And so this Fairy Dust collection was her June release, and so I decided to use this to create a project, which is gonna be going as a gift to one of my other friends. So um, now, I mean, come on, who doesn't like fairies, right? So all of these papers, what I really like about them is that each of them comes with a background sheet and a foreground sheet, or the image sheet. And each of these images, if you guys, for a closer look, you guys will probably have to go to her store to see them. But let me show you some of the papers, if it will focus. Okay, there you go. So look at how cute that is. That's a fairy sitting on top of a snail on top of a flower. And then there is this, which is two little fairies kissing in the under the moonlight. And there is this one with a fairy sitting in, on a swing. And then there is this, which is one of my favorites, of a pair of little vintage fairies dancing or playing. And then there is also this, which is a very interesting paper and not something that I have seen before. It is a fairy godmother granting a wish. And I intend to use this in one of my future projects, but it's still in the works. And then I also really like this one. And I saw Maggie White on YouTube also used this for one of her recent projects. So of course this is the one that I used on my project, and I'll show you a larger version of this garden fairy. I absolutely adore the color scheme, the garden fairy. Usually I like images which have a soft face, and her face is so sweet, and I really liked all this, and it looks like a painting. When you print it out, it really looks like a painting. So I wanted to use this. And what I did was I actually resized this image using Word for my project because the original size of the 8 by 8 paper was a little too large. And what I also used, this is the background paper which matches this. I didn't use this, but I got it printed just in case I wanted to use it. And this paper is awesome because you see these little fairies in the bubbles. You can also punch them out and make little charms or trinkets to match your project if you want to, or you can even use them as bottle cap images. This is another one of the sheets that I printed out because I wanted to use it for my project. And these are for another project that I'll be making, that I've already started making. And this is, of course, as many of you already also know, that this is one of the favorite papers from this collection. And I really like this because you can put any image of your choice in this paper. And that's what I intend to do. I mean, I intend to use this image to match this paper, but for other projects that I'm going to be doing in the future, I'm definitely going to be using different images that can fit inside this frame. And then this is something, this is another background paper that I will be using. And I actually saw Cynthia Luhu use this paper in some of her cards as a background, and I really liked how it looked, so I printed it out to use it. And then these are the inchies, and they all come with these little images and stuff. And these are the domino pieces that come with the Fairy Dust collection, as well as these. I haven't used any of these tags yet, but I probably will. cut them out and use them, you get all the tags that are here. I mean, one tag to match each sheet in the paper collection. So you have tons and tons of choices. And I'm also gonna probably use the cut sheet that I printed out to, because these are like 2 inches by 2 inches, I think. And I'm probably gonna use these to create embellishments. Why waste a printout, right? So now the interesting thing that I found out recently was that I can get all these printed in Staples or in Office Depot for way cheaper than it would cost me to print them at home. So, that was one of the reasons why I was not, although I love digital paper collections and, there were so many beautiful ones that I've seen out there. I'm usually averse to getting digital papers simply because, the cost of an ink cartridge is so high that, you don't want to go around printing papers indiscriminately at home. So what I did was I actually took these. I went to Staples and I asked them what it would cost to print out, these images. And they said if I got my own cardstock, I wanted them printed on cardstock. So I asked them how much it would cost to print on cardstock. And they said that if I have my own cardstock, it will cost me 49 cents to print it. And if I got it printed on their cardstock, if they supply the cardstock, it would cost something like $1.19 or $1.20. So of course I got my big sheaf of white cardstock from Joann's, and it cost like a couple of dollars for like 25 or 50 sheets, I think. So I got those, and I'm sure all of you have those at home. So I went, took that, and I took all the papers in a thumb drive or a pen drive to Staples, and I got them printed there. And the other thing was that I really like the quality because it's professional printing. They did a really neat job, and all the details came out really nice on the, none of the images were blurred or smudged or anything, and they came out really nice when I got them printed outside. And so that's what I did. And now let me show you. Enough talking. I've been gabbing for like 7 minutes. Okay, so let me hurry up and show you guys the project. And ta-da! Some of you may have seen the sneak peek that I posted of this fairy on Facebook, but I made a little photo frame. Well, it's not little, but I made a photo frame. I got the frame from Joann's, and the awesome thing about the frame was that it came painted in white. So I didn't, unless I wanted to change the color, I didn't really have to do much. I just had to start embellishing, and that was, half the work done right there. So what I did was, how I made this frame was, I glued this paper down as the base. This is let me show you. This paper, what is it called? Come on. Okay, so this is, you know what it's called. So I used that paper as the base, and what I did was I went over it with the Martha Stewart glitter paint. You get it in these little tubs in Home Depot. So I have one of those, and what I really like about them is that they dry clear. So if you go over it, all it leaves is little, glitter all over the place. I mean, and it's fine glitter, really fine. It's not splotchy, so I went over it just to give it a little shine, because I knew the rest of the project was going to be, shiny, and I didn't want the paper to kind of stand out. So I did that, and then I used a little lace to go around the edge, after the paint dried, of course. And this is the lace that I used. I went around the edge of the entire frame, and then I used this blingy blink trim, which is this one. It's the vintage floral trim from my store, and I went around the edge of the whole thing. And then around the center, what I did was I used one little lace, a little crocheted lace, and I went over it with the little flat back pearls. And then I first did the flower cluster and then I did the fairy. So I'm going to tell you how I worked this out in the same order. I went along the bottom of this entire side using these leaves from the leaf trim, the holiday leaf trim that I used to have in my store, and which is currently sold out. But what I did was I cut out each of these leaves individually and I placed them with their little flowers all along this bottom. And I also put some in the center below these flowers because I knew there would be some peeking out over here. So then what I did was I used one of the big shabby peach flowers, and I used 2 ivory flowers, the mini shabby flowers, and then I used some paper flowers all over the place. I think some of these are Wild Orchid Crafts and some are racks and gifts that people have sent me. So I used several of these various cute little pink, and I wanted the flowers to match the fairy, and also to coordinate with this trim along the side. So I used, oranges, pinks, and blues, and of course I added some bling here. These were little pieces that I cut out from this trim. I cut those little pieces out and used them as centers, and I also added them here and there. I also added some, if you can see it over here, I also added some of these tiny little bling pieces. And you can see it right over there. And then I also used some sprays. These are just regular pearl sprays. I used one here and one here. And then after this was done, this didn't take a very long time to put in. What I did was I fussy cut the fairy, and oh my god, I absolutely hate fussy cutting. I mean, if there's anything I like less than fussy cutting in the world, I actually can't think of anything that I like less than fussy cutting in the world. So I fussy cut this whole thing, and then I had printed 2 of these images in this size. I had printed this same sheet twice and I had resized it. Let me show you the original size, because the original fairy was too big for me to use directly on the frame. So I opened it in Word and I resized it to make it smaller. I had measured it to see how big I wanted it. And then what I did was I fussy cut one layer. I printed the sheet twice, and I'll tell you why. I fussy cut the whole thing and I glued it on top of, you know how everybody likes to peek under stuff to see what is under there and how you glued it on top and stuff. And I didn't want to, have those ugly glue dots showing, or, those little foam poppers to be showing under it. So what I did was I used 3 shabby mini rosettes. I placed one here, and one here, and you can see them under, so that it looks pretty even below the fairy. And then I placed the fairy, and before I actually glued the fairy on, what I did was I used diamond dust on all her flowers. Diamond dust is this little glass pieces that you get, and I used glossy accents, and then I just put the diamond dust, sprinkled it on top, and shook it off. And I use some on the flower in her hair and along this, and it also stiffens the paper so your paper won't bend and tear apart. And then all this glitter came from stickles, so I just added stickles. And because the diamond dust is totally colorless, it looks like ice, and I wanted it to have some color, what I did was I went over the diamond dust with my stickles. So I added stickles all over the diamond dust to give it, because if you can see it, let me see if it'll focus close enough. And you can, now the diamond dust has that color and the shine that it was lacking before. So I went over it with stickles. Then I wanted the skirt of the fairy to be dimensional. So what I did was I folded some tulle pieces, and this is the original image that I fussy cut. I did little pieces of tulle on each of the petals, and on the second image I cut off her head and her body, and I just cut these little pieces individually. I cut each of her petals out individually, and I glued the tulle to these. Instead of gluing it directly down to this, I glued each of those tulle pieces to this, to the top image, to the top of her skirt. And then I glued each of them down. And the reason I did that was because I wanted each of them to stand out separately, but if I had glued this down directly to this, it wouldn't have. So what I did was, once I glued it down, I put some diamond dust under there, but it was kind of looking a little messy. So I added a little piece of bling to make it look like she had a belt or something around her waist. And yes, I am so smart. So I did that, and then I, because the fairy was all shiny and twinkly and pretty, and so what I did was I also went over all of these flowers with the same stickles to make it all tie in. And I mean, a little glitter never hurt anybody, right? So I went over several of these flowers which are a little dull, and I went over them with my stickles. And so I hope the person who's going to receive this likes it, and let me know what you think of my project. And if you guys want $3 off Diana's entire paper collection, head over to her store. I will put the link down below in the description, and I'll also put the coupon code that you can use on her entire paper collection. But if you just want each of these papers individually, you can get them for $1, and then you can print them out as many times as you want for 49 cents at Staples. No, Staples is not paying me for this advertisement. It's absolutely free because I was so happy with their service. And I hope you guys like my project. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.